Hello, communicators. Welcome to episode 19 of the audio series, The Communicator. Let's dive into the world of corporate communications from an in house lens. I'm Yesenia Reinoso, your host, and thanks so much for tuning in. If you're new to the show or are a general member, hit that subscribe button. You can also share, like, and comment on this and previous episodes at your disposal. Spread it far and wide, friends. I'm available on social media, so follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter/X. All my handles are listed in the episode description box below. And finally, this episode and all previous 18 volumes are now available across all primary podcast mediums. Every new episode comes out on the first and third Mondays of the month, which you can hear on your laptop, mobile, or any portable electronic device. Now that we got that magnificent intro out of the way, welcome back to The Communicator. We have reunited once again in our podcast core inner circle, the bonfire shining brightly, and we are ready to invest in another key corporate communications topic. Your host here is ready to get into that driver's seat and take us to our next destination in our season 2 journey. If you haven't heard this episode and the previous 3 episodes, obviously they're available. And don't forget our season 1 library. And obviously the Telegraph is ready to deliver this latest message to all of you that suggestions, comments, anything whatsoever to help us better improve this audio series. All communications lines are always open, so please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Obviously, you are the voice of the communicator. You deserve to be heard, and I want to ensure that your input is put in across all aspects of this show. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. And of course, your feedback is so incredibly helpful. Please leave that 5-star rating, a suggestion. Obviously, there are many ways for me to improve this show, but I can't do it without you. And so, obviously, anything that to help this podcast get the motivation it needs to make it a true resource for you all. Obviously, everything is out in the open. So come on in to the Communicator family, our general followers. Thank you so much for always being here since day one. To the new members, welcome. And now that we are navigating through season 2, we are now just one episode away from the halfway point. I decided to split up the season into 2 parts, part 1 and part 2, and we are soon going to be wrapping up part 1 in 2 weeks' time with episode number 20, aka volume 5, whatever direction I decide to go with it. And from the very beginning, I wanted this season and as well as future seasons to go through a navigation path where we highlight key subcategories within the corporate communications umbrella. And so I decided to dedicate season 2 in all of its devotion to external communications. And so far, we've had an incredible journey where we've talked about the importance of external communications, what it is all about. And then we started to go deeper into its own categories that really makes uh, that area one of the most prominent components within the corporate communications umbrella. And so from episode 17, 18, and 19, I decided to do a mini series to put the focus on 2 of those key components within the external communication subcategory: public relations and media relations. And so if you haven't had the time to review each one of those episodes, I highly recommend that you do. As a matter of fact, listen to the season 2 library up to this point. 17 was all about public relations. 18 was all about media relations, the last episode. And now this particular volume that we're going to be diving into, we're going to be highlighting the difference between public relations and media relations. Obviously, when you think about both of those components, each of them are very unique in its own way, but also at the same time, each of them carry heavy weight as they both have functions that mainly further build and establish your reputation as a prominent figure. And so, before we dive into today's episode, I want to make everybody aware that when we're talking about public relations and media relations, we want to ensure that we gain a comprehensive understanding of the similarities, differences, and synergies between public relations and media relations. And so, as 19 is going to be focusing on the difference, I also want everybody to be aware that in whatever aspect of external communications you work, whether it's public relations or media relations, both of them carry their own weight. And so it's really important that you have a clear understanding as to how each function operates and how do they come together when you're trying to execute a communication strategy. And so let's not waste any more time. Let's talk about the difference. So, communicative family, let's communicate the PR and MR, the difference. Ready? Great. Let's dive right in. And so, obviously, if you haven't heard the previous two episodes, I talked in depth as to what both public relations and media relations do, the importance, its components, the tactics, strategies, how can it be implemented, etc. But I wanted episode 19 to put the firm focus on the difference. And so we're going to be talking about the difference in 5 different ways. We're going to talk about the scope and objectives, which is pretty much is going to be an overview summary of what the functions of PR and MR do. And again, both of them are explained in more detail in the previous 2 episodes. Part 2 will be audience targeting, tactics and strategies for part 3. Part 4 will be impact and measurement, and part 5 will be integration and collaboration. And so let's go into the first part, which is the scope and objectives. So this is again pretty much a summary as to what both of these functions do. And so public relations encompasses of a broader range of activities that are aimed at managing relationships and communications between organization and stakeholders, which includes customers, investors, communities, employees, shareholders, stakeholders, and other prominent individuals. PR is also a broad strategy that includes media relations as one of its tactics. And PR pros can always whip up a story and use relationships to influence key audiences. PR helps you communicate your values, goals, and achievements. I want everyone to understand that the key word when it comes to public relations is communicate. PR helps you communicate to your audience. It helps you communicate your story in whatever shape or form that you want it to be told. PR helps you to build trust and loyalty with your core audience or audiences through your story. PR is communications. And so some of these definitions, again, you'll definitely get a walk down memory lane because you heard of them before. I've explained it in the previous 2 episodes, but it's always great to get a refresher because, as I just mentioned, media relations is forever going to be a key tactic within public relations. And so when you think about executing a public relations plan, know that PR focuses on everybody. It's the entire spectrum. And depending as to who you're targeting, it's possible that you may only have one audience or multiple audiences. And so it really helps to have a clear viewpoint as to what you're influencing, whom are you influencing, how you're influencing, and of course, the all important why are you influencing them. PR focuses on those key areas. Now we move on to media relations, where media relations specifically focuses on managing relationships with journalists, editors, producers, and influencers to secure positive media coverage and shape media perceptions. Media relations professionals pitch the story to the media, whether it's arranging interviews, responding to general inquiries, and distributing any kind of press materials, which can be a combination of press releases, press kits, among others. The primary goal of media relations is to convey any kind of key message and to promote a positive brand image without paying for advertising. Media relations helps you amplify your messages and reach either a broad or a targeted audience or audiences. Once again, the key word here in media relations is amplify. Media relations helps you gain exposure, credibility, and visibility in the press. PR communicates and MR amplifies. That's pretty much the whole spectrum of what each of these core areas do. PR shapes the story, while MR provides the microphone to actually say it. And so now we move on to part two of this episode, where we're going to talk about audience targeting. And as I just mentioned, PR focuses on multiple audiences, while media relations only specifically focuses in one audience, which is the press itself. And so PR campaigns, and don't forget, most of these PR campaigns can also be multilingual slash multicultural. They can target a diverse range of stakeholders, shareholders, employees, or other prominent individuals beyond just media. And as I've mentioned, it can pretty much include a combination of government agencies, the public, employees, board of directors, and so forth. While media relations primarily targets journalists and media outlets in order to secure coverage in print, digital, and other platforms. Some of them can include newspapers, magazines, radio, social media, TV, online publications, blogs, podcasting, and so forth. We now move on to part three, which is the tactics and the strategies. PR employs a wide range of tactics and strategies, which includes media relations, community engagement, crisis management, internal communications, stakeholder relations, influencer partnerships, content creation, events, and sponsorships. While media relations tactics can include writing and distributing different types of press materials, such as press releases, pitching stories to reporters, organizing press conferences, arranging media interviews, responding to media inquiries, facilitating media tours, and cultivating relationships with key media contacts. Most of the time, communications professionals have to do both public relations and media relations. I know I've done my fair share of overseeing a wide variety of both public relations and media relations strategies. Why? Because I had to oversee a department where I had to multitask many of these key things that I just mentioned. Sometimes my responsibilities can include community engagement, content creation, uh, PR, event management, overseeing sponsorship, talking to different corporate partners. And then from the media relations side, I was responsible in developing different types of press materials, arranging interviews with the media themselves, training the senior executives or spokespersons, cultivating relationships, responding to inquiries. And so, most of communications departments, whether you work in house or agency today, you see that fusion between PR and media relations. Most of the in-house teams that you see there the majority of the individuals already have experience in both areas. We've also seen occasions where we have individuals who specifically focus on one area, public relations, or the other, media relations. It just depends as to the formation of the department and as well as the budget. And so it doesn't matter as to how you build your teams. It it pretty much comes down to is what is the best interest of the organization. Which aspect is going to be more beneficial for them at this time? Or do they bring somebody in that has that fusion of both? The beautiful thing about external communications is that it's all about versatility. And so we have seen as to how communications professionals figure out ways as to how they can better grow their public relations and media relations expertise. And so I too have plenty of stories where I have developed different types of communications campaigns, and as well as formulating media relationships with key journalists, whether it's on the local or national levels. And I've also done media relations training with senior executives, and as um, developing partnerships with whether it's with administrative professionals or with government agencies talking about key policy issues. And so the entire spectrum of things can easily transform depending as to what exactly is your organization an expert of, and how do you try to cultivate a message that is going to resonate with audiences. Part four is impact and measurement. The impact of PR is measured through various metrics such as brand awareness, reputation, scores, stakeholder sentiment, website traffic, social media engagement, lead generation, and sales. While media relations impact is primarily measured by analyzing media coverage, which includes outreach, frequency, tone, message penetration, voice of share, and sentiment analysis. This is where data management tools come into play. If you happen to have, whether it's a media database such as Cision, Prowly, Critical Mentioned, Meltwater, Muckrag, and so forth, they can do a wide variety of these tools. If you're for a social media standpoint, if you have Later, Hootsuite, among others. There are a wide variety of affordable, cost-effective, and of course, the more expensive options. All depends on your budget. But nowadays, having a PR tool is going to be incredibly helpful as you try to measure the different types of statistics and how your communications campaigns are generating impact, and whether or not you need to implement some improvement as your strategy continues to roll itself out. And finally, part five, integration and collaboration. PR often integrates media relations as one component of a much broader communication strategy that includes internal and external communications. It could also be for marketing, advertising, and of course, digital social media. While effective collaboration between PR and media relations teams ensures cohesive messaging, maximizing media opportunities, and minimizing reputational risk. Overall, in today's landscape, digitalization has specifically impacted both public relations and media relations. Digital PR strategies leverage online channels, social media platforms, content marketing, and influencers to reach target audience or audiences, whether it's directly and through amplified messaging. Media relations professionals must also adapt to the evolving landscape, which includes the proliferation of online media outlets, citizen journalism, social media influencers, and the everlasting 24/7 news cycle. Both PR and media relations pros must navigate the challenges and opportunities presented by these emerging technologies, analytics, misinformation, different types of content, and of course, online reputational management. In conclusion, when public relations uh, brings up a much broader scope of activities aimed at managing relationships with various stakeholders, media relations specifically focuses on managing relationships with journalists and securing positive media coverage to enhance an organization's reputation, visibility, and transparency. And when you want to look at it from a much bigger standpoint, public relations can be looked upon as if you're driving in a car through a rectangular racetrack, while media relations, your car is driving through a square racetrack. And so the similarities and differences between both of these components cannot be overstated. And so while both of them definitely have their benefits and their strengths, they also have their key differences, which is very much understandable. But in today's age, it's always good to have those skills and eventually fuse them together to make a much broader and a more effective communications team, department, and messaging. And so that wraps up episode number 19 of the Communicator. And that also wraps up our mini series. I really hope that you enjoyed as we went through the trip of a lot of a communications lifetime between public relations and media relations. And that wraps up that part of the adventure. And now we're going to move on into the other aspects of external communications that I'm sure everybody is dying to hear. And so I can't wait to get into all of those other exciting insights. And so, with that in mind, as we reach the end of episode 19 of The Communicator, do you have any questions, comments, anything you agree or disagree with? What topic should I focus on next? Any feedback is highly welcome. Just simply email me at yr.ymedia@gmail.com. Email is listed in the episode description. And don't forget to follow me on social media and on The Communicator. If you hit those subscribe buttons, you'll definitely bring a smile out of me. Don't forget to share, like, and comment away as we continue to elevate this podcast to the next level. Leave that 5-star rating or review. And lastly, tune into episode 20 in 2 weeks' time. That will also be the end of part 1 of our season 2 spotlight. And of course, I will see you next time on the opposite end of the corporate communication spectrum. Take care, Communicator family. So long.